and welcome. Welcome to our viewers. Sinead here, and tonight or this evening we are going to have a discussion about menopause. And I'm not sure how many employers really recognize how big a deal menopause is, Annie, and how long it can run for. Like it can run for up to a decade, I think. Am I right or wrong in that?
Yeah, yeah, it can run for a long time, and there's some research to say there's quite a high percent. I can't remember what it is. I think maybe something like 25%, but maybe a bit more of women who feel misunderstood in the workplace
Hmm.
regarding menopause, and leave their work because of it.
Yeah.
Leave the job because it's not understood, and
Yes.
so, it's something that needs to be highlighted for sure, especially in the workplace. It's very
Yes.
important.
Because obviously, if businesses are losing up to 25% of their staff, that's a massive cost, you know, to the
A
business.
massive cost, yes, and and of course, along with that is experience, the amount of experiences people have had. Because
Absolutely.
most of them obviously are be in their 50s, when they took their
Yes.
start. So, a massive amount of experience.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And what advice would you have for any potential bosses that might be listening to this, or employees that might want to give some tips to their boss in terms of, helping them to navigate through menopause?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a question of being open and honest about it, isn't it? And
Hmm.
discussing it, and making sure that people are understood. I mean, occupational health can be quite good if there's an occupational health department. They
Yes.
can be quite good, but generally speaking, it is obviously something that happens to women from the age of say 52, 53 onwards, and
Mm.
it can be pre, and it can be younger people,
Yes.
women in their 40s, sometimes
Hmm.
go through the menopause, and even being heard of in their 30s, depending on what the reasons are. There was lots of reasons for menopausal symptoms at a younger
Yeah.
age, and also the other thing is, of course, trying to get the correct would we say diagnosis, but to get the correct thing, because at the end of the day, the similar symptoms to menopause, thyroid disorder, for example, or B12 deficiency, which we've,
Hmm.
talked about before. Some of
Yeah.
the signs and symptoms are very similar, and sometimes it's
Right.
quite difficult to, decipher what it is. So
Y-
I think it's important for employers to recognize that and to say, to employees, well, it might be well worth it, having a health checkup,
hmm
and seeing, if it is that, and what is actually
Yeah.
going on, so they can try and help them to deal with the symptoms.
Yeah. And so when you say you're having a health checkup, Annie, what specifically would you be testing for in those circumstances?
Well, I think if somebody comes in, I would really like to know, obviously what the symptoms are. So, are they typically sort of night sweats and hot flushes, and, lack of
Okay.
concentration, looking for, some sort of issues around being, not, concentration is a big thing. Low mood is a big thing. Could be irritable, could have sleeping issues.
Hmm.
And there could be, vaginal dryness, loss of sex drive, or virtually no sex drive. So
Hmm.
lots of things that have an impact on the quality of life, but some of these symptoms can be other things. So you would want to look at the other things, and those other things would probably be looking at, um, what comes up in the chat. But generally speaking, you would be wanting to do a hormone study. So you would want to look at, the estrogen, progesterone. You would want to look at the FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone. You would want to look at sex binding hormone, testosterone. You would want to look at a number of things to look for a pattern within that. Then you would want to look at that sort of looking at menopausal issues. And then you would want to rule out that it's a thyroid issue. So you might want to do some thyroid bloods, for a TSH level, maybe, a thyroid profile, which would include
Mm-hmm.
T3 and T4. And then you maybe would look at, deficiencies depending on what the issues were. There might be an issue with a B12 deficiency, which can also cause, things like, cognitive decline or low mood or, cognitive impairment, lack of concentration, irritability, so it can be a number of things. So you would want to figure out, what the main symptoms are and sort of go from there. But it's a process of elimination sometimes and detective work,
Yeah.
But the keys really in sort of menopause are about periods and about regular or irregular,
Mm-hmm.
is there been a decline, has there been an irregular pattern over the past year or 6 months or whatever? You would
Mm-hmm.
want to know the history as well. You would look at the family history. You would want to know, the mum. What age was the mum when they went through their menopause? Were they young or were they sort of
Yeah.
average 52, 53? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's quite a bit of uh, consultation and history taken is so vitally important when it comes to looking at things like this, because it's
Yeah.
not always obvious.
Yeah. And when you say cognitive decline, Annie, um, can that be addressed then and reversed?
Yes, of course, yeah. It depends on what's causing it.
Yes.
So if there's an issue with a deficiency, for example, yes, it can be addressed and help given with that.
Mm-hmm.
It just sometimes means that if you're, say, for example, B12 deficient, and you're really deficient,
Mm-hmm.
then you should start to see an improvement with supplementation of B12. You would
Okay.
see that. Um, you would also see, maybe mood changes, and because B12 deficiency causes high homocysteine, which controls the
Mm-hmm.
mood, and it's all to do with the methylation cycle, and sometimes a deficiency can cause that. So it
Mm-hmm.
might not be the menopause, it could be that, but there again, it might be, and then we would look at what we can do about that if it is menopausal, which
Mm-hmm.
there's things we can do.
Yeah. Very good. Because, as we said earlier, like it's a huge, huge event really in a woman's life. Well,
Yes.
for some women have sailed through it with not particular, no major problems. And other people, it's a nightmare, where I've heard of people saying they have to change the sheets in the middle of the night because they're sweating so much. And clearly that's hugely disruptive.
Hugely disruptive, insomnia as a result of it, so makes it even
Yeah.
worse. It compounds the problem because you're
Mm-hmm.
you know you're sleeping well, and I mean, I personally went into the menopause at age 45 after a surgical full hysterectomy, and I remember that, I remember waking up and the bed was absolutely soaking. I mean, I'm not talking about just damp. I'm talking about
Yeah.
wet. It was
Right.
the whole the whole bed, and I just, you wouldn't believe it. You just
Yeah.
wouldn't believe it. But it's the hot flushes. I don't know that I ever had one, but the sweats. Oh my goodness, they
Right.
were horrendous. So some people, they have like, and the lack of concentration, the focus. I was so um, unable to focus, and I'm quite a focused person, so it was like a whole what is this, And nobody really warned me. I mean, I should have known, but nobody really warned me about it. They didn't say, oh, by the way, you're going to go
Yeah.
straight into the menopause the next day.
Mhm.
My mood went like that,
Yeah.
ended up crying and all sorts. And I'm not
Right.
prepared. I just don't do that. And so, but it was only
Yes.
for, it was a couple of days or something. It didn't go on forever, but the cognitive thing did, the focus did, the lack of ability to concentrate was horrible. So I ended up on HRT at that time because there didn't seem to be any other solution, even though I had tried some, natural
Yeah.
solutions. But I wasn't as aware of natural solutions as I am now. And there's far better products on the
Yeah.
market now than there was then. But, it was just looking at what Holland and Barrett had in store, for example, without doing a whole
Yes.
load of
Yeah.
research.
Yeah. I get you. And of course, we don't give medical advice here. And if
No.
anybody feels they need to get medical advice, then we recommend they go to their healthcare practitioner. This conversation is purely for entertainment purposes. So, what your thinking has changed, then you're saying in relation to HRT, you're saying you used it yourself. And in what
I
way has
used
that
to.
changed, Annie?
Well,
Yeah.
I would prefer not to use artificial hormones, for example, now, and I know that there's products
Right.
on the market, and of course, as a sort of health hub, we have our own organic wild yam cream, which my herbalist makes for me. So it's all
Okay.
natural solution, and it's it's an excellent way to control symptoms, and we get lots of reports from women who say that, that their lives have changed dramatically by being on the wild yam cream. So it's it's usually a concoction. Well,
Okay.
it is a concoction of wild yam, shea butter, chasteberry, vitex, sesame seed oil, mango butter,
Mm-hmm.
calendula, and vitamin E, um, geranium and rose essential oils, and clary sage.
Oh,
Um, and
wow.
it's a very rich product, but it it only takes. I mean, obviously everybody's different. We would say that in order to control the symptoms, it might take a few weeks, or even a couple of
Yeah.
months. But
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, most people seem
Yeah.
to get quite a lot of relief in such a short space of time. So you know, but obviously there's that. If people are still having periods but having symptoms, so they might be perimenopausal. So that's before
Mm-hmm.
the menopause. But to define perimenopausal is really about having some symptoms, but also maybe the periods are getting a bit irregular, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not as regular as they were. Now, obviously, like I said before, we've got to think about like other reasons for that as well. There could be many reasons for
Yes.
irregular periods, and but you would need to do. I mean, the GPs have shied away from doing blood tests these days, but a good set of hormone tests, the FSH, will tell you really where we're at, and it's sometimes, depending on
Right.
where people are in the cycle, you might want to repeat that if it's, if it's borderline type of thing. But 9 times out of 10, if you've got a high FSH, we can tell where you are in the stages of the menopause, either peri or post-menopausal. So, but with the
Mm.
cream, all you do is it's a little jar. All you do is put like a quarter of a teaspoon on, morning and night, and you can put it in. Well, women put it on their breasts, or inside the thighs, or lower abdomen, or inner or upper arms, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can
Yeah.
increase it from quarter of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon, depending on the symptoms, the symptom control. But
Yes.
for women who still have a menstrual cycle, albeit irregular,
Mm-hmm.
then they put it on morning and night, and then they have to take a 5 to 7 day break from it. So
Right.
during that time, they would take a 5 to 7 day break, usually during the period time. Um,
Okay.
and then if you're menopausal, then we ask you to sort of apply it for 3 weeks of the month, and then take a break for 1 week, and then continue. And so 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So quite similar to the other one, but it would be
Mm-hmm.
the perimenopausal is when when women are still having periods. It would be the period the break would be during the period time, which might not be at 3 weeks, might be 4 weeks, or
Right. Yeah.
28 days, or 20 whatever days the cycle is. But
Mm-hmm.
it really is effective, and sometimes anyway, when women are menopausal, and having maybe a hot flash or something, you can actually put the cream on the pulse point, the radial pulse, for example, and the wrist, and
Right.
it will help the symptoms, so you can put a dash of it
Immediately.
on if you like. Yes, and it works really, really
Okay.
well. So
Yeah.
there are
That's very good.
various. Yes, ours doesn't have any, additives or preservatives in. So we ask people
Very
to,
good.
once it's open, to keep it in the fridge, so that it's fresh. But there
Mm-hmm.
are other companies out there
Yes.
that do make the wild yam good. That's got preservative in it. We don't want to have anything in our products that if we don't have to.
Yeah.
So we try and just do
Yes.
mainly all natural products. But we've had a lot of success with it. A lot of women are swear by it and
Good.
say it's really helpful for their symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah. And where can they buy it, Annie, if they want to?
They can go onto the Health Hub, abhealthhub.com, and it's on the shop. It's in the shop, and we just ship it out to
Lovely.
people. We have,
Okay.
we only ever have a few in stock at a time, so sometimes we have to, um, uh, uh,
Order it in.
order it in, because
Yeah.
it's got a 6 month shelf life. Once you open it, so
Okay.
it's got to be used within that time. But
Yes.
mainly, I mean, the cream will definitely last you 6 or 7 weeks. If you're using it,
Okay.
but
And how
it's
long would people need to use it for, Annie? Would they
just as
need
long
to
as they've
use
got
it for a few
symptoms.
months?
Just as long as they've got
Okay.
symptoms, and it would be a bit of
Yeah.
trial and error. I mean, some women
Mm.
have symptoms for years, and just continue. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you get women who've been on HRT for 10 or 15 years, which I don't recommend, by the way, but
Yeah.
I do think that,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the symptoms can linger, and, it just depends. I mean, I've had several women in who are in their 60s and still, late 60s and still on HRT, and
Really?
yeah, I mean, it's I had somebody who was over 70 had still on HRT about 6 months ago, and I said, well, I think it's probably a good idea if you come off it, but if you you need to obviously discuss that with your GP. It's not my decision. I'm not here to tell
Yes.
you what to do, but
Mm-hmm.
have a discussion with your
Yeah.
GP at least and see, because it does,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the person, but obviously there are increased risks with things like HRT,
Yeah.
and people, and some people, I think, you get quite dependent on things, don't you? When something's taking care of the symptoms, you might be kind of frightened to come off it. That can happen. Not that it's addictive; it's just that
Right.
people get like used to it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
habit, it's a pattern, and maybe
Yes.
coming off it. I mean, I was
Yes.
only on it for a year and a half, and I had enough. I kept forgetting to take it, which told me everything. But
Yeah.
and I didn't really have much of a menopause after that. It didn't. I wasn't bothered by it. So, but
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's different. So
Excellent.
yeah, yeah,
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so. And really everybody needs to realize they need to listen to their own body and,
yes,
go with their own gut instinct, but do
yes,
their
I do.
research, and don't just stay, taking anything long term, without questioning it. Question everything.
Yes, and I think I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was speaking at a meeting yesterday, Sunday, and I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were saying, "Oh, I take all these vitamins and minerals and stuff. I've been doing it for years. I take about 15 to 20 a day." And I said, "Have you ever had a review of those things?
Mm.
No. Well, it's as well as having a medication review with your doctor, it's really important to have a vitamin review
Yes.
because, honest to goodness, you've seen people, don't you, when they're taking B6 in this and they're taking B6 in that, and they're overdosing on B6, which actually can cause tremors and anxiety. It's anxiety provoking if you take too much of it. And then it's
Wow.
toxic. B6 can be toxic. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, just because it's a supplement or a vitamin, doesn't mean it doesn't
Yes.
cause issues. If you're not, but people kind of, I think they think, oh, it's okay. It's just a spike from wherever, but actually
Yeah.
it isn't. And so it's important, really important to drill into people. I think I try and drill into people that, if you're on supplements and vitamins, and give it a review, at least every 6 months,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
some
Hmm.
stuff, you shouldn't be taking long term,
Yeah.
you should take it now and again, like B6, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, you can take it for a bit and then stop it, and
Yeah.
just making sure um, that you're not getting toxic, So it's important because some vitamins are obviously,
Hmm.
excreted differently, in the body, or they
Okay.
accumulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting, Annie. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much. We're at nearly 23 minutes. I guess that's long enough
Oh
for
my goodness.
anybody to be bearing with us. So we will go live again later on in the week. I think we've both been under a lot of pressure and been very busy, but we'll aim to go live again later in the week. Do you think?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. The time just flies
Yeah,
by. It's great. And,
it does.
and if
Yeah,
anybody's got, I think the other thing is if anybody's got any subjects that they're interested in us discussing, then
they'd like
why
us to
don't they
cover.
just,
Yeah,
yeah, just drop you a line,
a
in the chat
message.
or whatever, a message, yeah, and we can discuss
Absolutely.
it, because it's quite,
Yeah,
it's great talking, but people maybe do have questions, or maybe they do have some health,
absolutely.
questions that they maybe, just want some, want us to talk about and discuss, you know.
Absolutely. We'd be delighted. Well, we'll do our best to accommodate for
We
sure.
absolutely will. We will,
Yeah,
Sinead, we will. So
yeah. Okie doke.
it's great to catch up with the Irish again. I've been spending some time with some Irish friends at the weekend. I've loved it. It's been really
Good.
good. Yeah, yeah, it's good. Good for the
Fantastic.
soul. Yeah,
We do our best.
absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So thanks so much, Annie, and we will catch up again later in the week.
Okay, my dear. Cheers.
Thank you.